January 30th, 1933. A cold Tuesday afternoon in Berlin. President Paul von Hindenburg signs a document appointing Adolf Hitler as Chancellor of Germany. It's a political compromise, a calculated risk. The conservative elite believe they can control him, use him, keep him in check. They're wrong. Within weeks, the Reichstag building burns. Hitler blames communists, declares a state of emergency, suspends civil liberties. On March 22, 1933, the first official concentration camp opens in Dachau, a small village near Munich. It's designed to hold political prisoners, communists, socialists, anyone who opposes the new regime. The commandant is Theodor Eicke. He creates a system, rules for guards, methods of punishment, a blueprint that will be copied across dozens of camps. Most Germans don't notice, or don't care. The camp is for enemies of the state, for people who deserve it. That's what they tell themselves. On April 1st, Nazi stormtroopers stand outside Jewish shops and businesses across Germany. They hold signs, "Don't buy from Jews." They photograph anyone who enters. It's called a boycott. It lasts only one day. But it's a test to see how far they can go, how much the public will accept. The public accepts it. On May 10th, university students gather in Berlin's Opera Square. They're burning books, thousands of them. Books by Jewish authors, communist writers, anyone whose ideas the Nazis deem dangerous. The pile grows higher. The flames rise into the night sky. Students cheer. Joseph Goebbels, the propaganda minister, speaks to the crowd. The era of extreme Jewish intellectualism is now at an end. A German poet named Heinrich Heine had written a century earlier, "Where they burn books, they will also ultimately burn people." He was right. At first, the persecution feels gradual, methodical, legal. April 7th, 1933. The law for the restoration of the professional civil service. Jews are barred from government jobs, from universities, from the legal profession. September 15th, 1935. The Nuremberg Laws. Jews are stripped of German citizenship. Marriages between Jews and non-Jews are forbidden. Each law builds on the last. Each restriction tightens the noose. In 1938, the violence becomes public. November 9th. Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass. Across Germany and Austria, synagogues burn. Jewish shops are looted. Windows shatter. 91 Jews are murdered. 30,000 Jewish men are arrested and sent to concentration camps. The next morning, Germans wake up to streets covered in glass. Some are horrified. Some are indifferent. Some join in. The German government blames the Jews for the destruction, fines them 1 billion Reichsmarks for the damage done to their own property. The message is clear. Jews are not German. They don't belong here. They never did. In May 1939, a German ocean liner called the St. Louis set sail from Hamburg to Cuba. On board are 937 passengers. Almost all of them are Jews fleeing Nazi Germany. They have Cuban landing certificates. They have hope. When the ship arrives in Havana, Cuba refuses to let them land. The certificates aren't valid anymore. The government changed its mind. The ship sails to Miami, appeals to the United States for refuge. The United States says no. Canada says no. The St. Louis returns to Europe. Belgium, the Netherlands, France, and Britain each agree to take some passengers. For those sent back to continental Europe, it's a death sentence they don't know they're receiving yet. When Germany invades those countries the following year, the passengers are trapped again. Only 2/3 of them survive the Holocaust. September 1st, 1939. Germany invades Poland. World War II begins. Within weeks, the Nazis established Jewish ghettos in Polish cities: Warsaw, Łódź, Kraków. The Warsaw ghetto becomes the largest. Over 400,000 Jews are forced into an area of 1.3 square miles, sealed behind walls, guarded by armed soldiers. Starvation becomes routine. Disease spreads. Bodies pile up in the streets. But the ghettos aren't the final plan. They're a temporary holding area. On June 22, 1941, Germany invades the Soviet Union. Behind the regular army, special units called Einsatzgruppen follow. Their orders are clear. Kill Jews. Kill Roma. Kill communist officials. Anyone the Nazis deem a threat or are inferior. They move from village to village, round up Jews, march them to forests, to ravines, to ditches. They shoot them. Men, women, children, entire communities erased in a single afternoon. In September 1941, at a ravine called Babi Yar outside Kiev, over 33,000 Jews are murdered in 2 days. The Einsatzgruppen kill approximately 1.5 million people, one bullet at a time. But bullets are expensive. The process is slow. The shooters complain it's psychologically difficult. The Nazis decide they need a more efficient method. January 20th, 1942, 15 high-ranking Nazi officials meet at a villa on Lake Wannsee in Berlin. The meeting lasts 90 minutes. They discuss what they call the final solution to the Jewish question. The plan: systematically murder every Jew in Europe. 11 million people. Men, women, children. Everyone. Reinhard Heydrich chairs the meeting. He doesn't need to convince anyone. The attendees are already committed. They just need to coordinate logistics, transportation schedules, labor allocation, how to handle those of mixed heritage, administrative details for genocide. No one objects. No one questions the morality. They discuss mass murder the way corporate executives discuss quarterly targets. The minutes from the meeting survive the war. 30 pages of bureaucratic language describing the planned annihilation of an entire people. The Nazis build 6 major extermination camps, all in occupied Poland: Chełmno, Bełżec, Sobibor, Treblinka, Majdanek, Auschwitz-Birkenau. Auschwitz becomes the largest, the most efficient, the most infamous. It's actually 3 camps in one. Auschwitz I, the main camp. Auschwitz II Birkenau, the extermination camp. Auschwitz III Monowitz, the labor camp. Trains arrive daily from across Europe, from France, Holland, Greece, Hungary, Norway. Jews are told they're being resettled in the East, promised new lives, new opportunities. When the trains stop, SS officers shout commands. Men to the left, women and children to the right. A doctor performs selection. A glance, a gesture with his hand. Left, those who look strong enough to work. Right, children, elderly, pregnant women, anyone deemed too weak. Those selected for the right are told they're going to shower, to be disinfected. It's for public health. They're led to buildings, ordered to undress, given soap and towels. The rooms are labeled baths and disinfecting rooms. They have fake shower heads installed in the ceiling. The doors lock behind them. Nazi guards drop Zyklon B pellets through openings in the roof. A pesticide. When exposed to air, it releases hydrogen cyanide gas. Death takes approximately 20 minutes. The strong die last, climbing over the weak, desperate for air near the ceiling. Afterward, members of the Sonderkommando, prisoners forced to work at the gas chambers, remove the bodies, extract gold teeth, cut women's hair to be used in textiles. The bodies are burned in crematoriums. When the crematoriums can't keep up, they're burned in open pits. The ashes are dumped in rivers or used as fertilizer. On efficient days, the Nazis murder up to 6,000 people at Auschwitz. If you believe this history must never be forgotten, please subscribe to this channel. We're committed to preserving these stories and ensuring future generations understand what happened. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. History depends on remembrance. In Auschwitz, a Nazi doctor named Josef Mengele conducts experiments. He's obsessed with twins, with genetics, with creating the so-called master race. When trains arrive, he searches for twins, especially children. He performs experiments without anesthesia, injects chemicals into eyes trying to change their color, amputates limbs, infects prisoners with diseases to study progression. He keeps meticulous records, takes photographs, treats human beings like laboratory specimens. Most of his subjects die. Those who survive carry physical and psychological scars for life. After the war, Mengele escapes to South America. He's never caught. He dies in Brazil in 1979, swimming in the ocean. He never faces trial, never answers for what he did. Not everyone complies. In the Warsaw Ghetto, starving, desperate Jews organize resistance. On April 19, 1943, when Nazi forces enter the ghetto to liquidate it, Jewish fighters open fire. They have homemade weapons, a few smuggled guns, Molotov cocktails. Against the full force of the German military, they hold out for nearly a month. The Warsaw Ghetto Uprising becomes the largest Jewish resistance action during the Holocaust. The Nazis eventually crush it, burn the ghetto block by block, kill or deport the remaining inhabitants. But the fighters prove something important, that even in the face of certain death, resistance is possible. Dignity is possible. Similar uprisings occur in Treblinka, in Sobibor, in Auschwitz. Prisoners attack guards, burn buildings. Some escape into forests. Most are recaptured and killed. But their defiance matters. Their refusal to submit matters. As Allied forces advance into Germany in 1945, the Nazis attempt to hide evidence. They force prisoners on death marches. Long forced walks from camps near the front lines to camps deeper in Germany. Thousands die on these marches, shot if they fall behind, frozen in the January snow, starved. The Nazis dynamite crematoriums, burn documents, murder witnesses, but they can't hide everything. On April 15th, 1945, British forces liberate Bergen-Belsen concentration camp in northern Germany. What they find shocks even battle-hardened soldiers. Approximately 60,000 prisoners, most barely alive, emaciated, covered in lice, suffering from typhus, dysentery, tuberculosis. Around 13,000 corpses lie unburied around the camp, bodies in various stages of decomposition. Major Dick Williams, one of the first British soldiers to enter, describes it. It was an evil, filthy place, a hell on earth. Among the dead are Anne Frank and her sister Margot. They died of typhus just weeks before liberation. Their bodies are in a mass grave somewhere in the camp. The British immediately begin relief efforts. But even liberation can't save everyone. Over 13,000 more prisoners die in the weeks after liberation, too weak to recover. BBC correspondent Richard Dimbleby broadcasts from Bergen-Belsen. His description brings the reality of the camps to the British public for the first time. "I've seen many terrible sights in the last 5 years," he says, "but nothing approaching the dreadfulness of this." Between January 27th and May 8th, 1945, Allied forces liberate camp after camp. Auschwitz, Buchenwald, Dachau, Mauthausen. American soldier Dwight D. Eisenhower visits Ohrdruf, a sub-camp of Buchenwald. He orders every American unit not engaged in combat to visit the camps, to see what they're fighting against. He orders photographs and film footage. He invites journalists, congressmen, local German civilians. "Get it all on record now," Eisenhower says. "Get the films, get the witnesses. Because somewhere down the road of history, some bastard will get up and say that this never happened." His prediction proves accurate. By May 8th, 1945, the war in Europe ends. Nazi Germany has murdered approximately 6 million Jews, 2/3 of Europe's Jewish population. They also murdered 5 million others. Roma people, disabled individuals, gay men, political prisoners, Jehovah's Witnesses, Soviet prisoners of war, Polish intellectuals, 11 million people total. Gone. Erased. Destroyed. For survivors, liberation doesn't mean freedom. It means displacement, statelessness, the horror of discovering that entire families have been murdered. Many have nowhere to return to. Their homes have been seized, their communities destroyed. In some places, returning Jews face continued violence from locals who don't want them back. Displaced persons camps house hundreds of thousands of survivors for years. Some remain there until the early 1950s. Many emigrate to Palestine, to the United States, to Canada, to Australia. Anywhere that will take them. They carry trauma that never fully heals, nightmares, survivors' guilt, the loss of everyone they loved. But they also carry something else, testimony. In November 1945, the Nuremberg trials begin. 24 Nazi leaders are prosecuted for crimes against humanity, for genocide, for waging aggressive war. The trials introduce evidence systematically, documents, photographs, film footage, survivor testimony. Hermann Goering, Hitler's second-in-command, is defiant. He shows no remorse. 12 defendants are sentenced to death. 7 receive prison sentences. 3 are acquitted. It's the first time international law holds individuals accountable for state-sponsored mass murder. But Nuremberg is just the beginning. Over the following decades, thousands of lower-level perpetrators are tried. Some escape justice, some live quiet lives under new identities. Adolf Eichmann, who organized the logistics of deportation, is captured in Argentina in 1960 by Israeli agents, tried in Jerusalem, executed in 1962. Others are never found, never punished. The Holocaust raises questions humanity still grapples with. How does a civilized society descend into barbarism? How do ordinary people participate in mass murder? How do neighbors turn on neighbors? Historian Christopher Browning studied Reserve Police Battalion 101, a unit of ordinary German men who murdered tens of thousands of Jews in Poland. They weren't ideological Nazis. They were middle-aged reservists, policemen, workers, family men. They were given a choice: participate in the killings or request a transfer. Most chose to participate. Browning titled his book Ordinary Men, because that's what they were, not monsters, not psychopaths, just ordinary people who committed extraordinary evil. Hannah Arendt called it the banality of evil. The idea that great atrocities aren't always committed by fanatics, but by people just following orders, just doing their jobs. Today, fewer than 100,000 Holocaust survivors remain alive worldwide. Most are in their 90s. They spend their final years giving testimony, speaking to students, sharing memories so painful they spent decades avoiding them. Irina Weiss, deported to Auschwitz at 14, says, "I survived so I could tell you what happened, so you would know." Kurt Goldschmidt, who survived Theresienstadt, says, "If we don't remember history, we're condemned to repeat it." The survivors understand something crucial. Memory is a form of resistance, against denial, against forgetting, against those who claim it never happened or wasn't that bad. Over 57,000 video testimonies have been recorded by the USC Shoah Foundation. Thousands more by museums and archives worldwide. Each testimony is unique, each voice irreplaceable. When the last survivor dies, the world will lose living witnesses. People who can say, "I was there, I saw it, it happened," but their recorded testimonies will remain, their words preserved, their warnings eternal. This is why we must never forget. This is why we must continue to educate. If this documentary opened your eyes to the importance of Holocaust remembrance, please subscribe to this channel. Share this video. Make sure these stories reach the next generation. Because when memory dies, truth dies with it. The Holocaust was not inevitable. It was a choice, thousands of choices. The choice to pass discriminatory laws, the choice to look away, the choice to participate, the choice to do nothing. But choices also saved lives. Oskar Schindler, a German industrialist, protected 1,200 Jews by employing them in his factory. Raoul Wallenberg, a Swedish diplomat, issued false passports that saved tens of thousands of Hungarian Jews. Ordinary people hid Jewish neighbors in attics, basements, barns, risking their lives and the lives of their families. They prove that even in humanity's darkest hour, decency survives. Courage exists. Goodness persists. The question is never, could the Holocaust happen again? The question is, what am I willing to do to prevent it? Because the Holocaust didn't begin with gas chambers. It began with words, with hate speech, with dehumanization, with conspiracy theories, with the normalization of violence against a scapegoated minority. It began with ordinary people believing their leaders, trusting authority, following orders. It began with silence, and it ended with 6 million deaths. On the gate at Auschwitz, the Nazis placed a sign, Arbeit macht frei. Work sets you free. It was a lie. Work didn't set anyone free. It worked them to death. But truth does set us free. Memory sets us free. Education sets us free. When we remember the Holocaust, we honor the dead. When we teach the Holocaust, we protect the living. When we say, never again, we make a promise. Not just to those who died, but to those not yet born, that we will recognize the signs, that we will speak up, that we will choose differently, because the greatest honor we can give to the 6 million is to ensure their deaths meant something. That from the ashes of Auschwitz, humanity learned that never again is not just a slogan, it's a sacred vow,